Nick Sirianni's comments yesterday proved that, where he said, hey, since I've been here, that was the best practice he had. He hung in the pocket. He read through all his progressions. Maybe he didn't have as high as a completion percentage, but I think that's really the next step they really want to see Jalen Hurts make is being able to read the defenses, go through those progressions. The smart, I know he threw his first interception in I don't know how many practices.
And a good football morning, Birds 365 fans. Here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Yes, you will get some Jody Mack and some Johnny Mack and a full helping of Ric Serritella, who's in for Johnny Mack today. JM will join us coming up in a couple of minutes live from Miami, where yesterday he was out at Eagles practice. It was supposed to be an Eagle joint practice, but that went by the board. So we found that out while we were on the air here yesterday on Birds 365 that the Dolphins had a stomach flu running through their team. Out of an overabundance of caution, they canceled the joint aspect of yesterday's practice. They canceled their practice altogether. But the Eagles did get a practice in, Ricky, and they would have liked to have a second shot at the Dolphins because, according to every reporter, including Johnny Mack, Dolphins got the better of them in day one of their 2 days of joint practice. So a little competition, a little setback, a little adversity never hurt anybody, specifically in a practice where it doesn't go up on the scoreboard as a loss. It goes up on our scoreboard as a loss. But the Eagles instead got a good regular practice in the heat in Miami to get ready for the season. Big loss, no loss. Jody, stop it. It's practice. What the hell are you talking about? How do you see the fact that yesterday's joint aspect went by the boards?
Yeah, a little training camp tutorial process. You got to learn a little bit. You got to get knocked down, pick yourself back up. And, I thought it was interesting reading a lot of the beat writers who said Jalen Hurts didn't exactly light it up and have a great practice. And then you hear Nick Sirianni in the post press conference saying, hey, Jalen Hurts just had his best practice in 2 years. So I think all this scrutiny, all this under the microscope, I saw, our friend Brandon had to break down every single practice. Did he go stock up? Did he go stock down? Did he go stock even? And I think he had 5 practices stock ups, 5 practices stock down, and 5 practices right there. So at the end of the day, listen, we don't really know what they're specifically working on all the time. We're not really understanding everything it is that they're asking Jalen Hurts to do. And so I think Nick Sirianni's comments yesterday proved that, where he said, hey, since I've been here, that was the best practice he had. He hung in the pocket. He read through all his progressions. Maybe he didn't have as high as a completion percentage, but I think that's really the next step they really want to see Jalen Hurts make is being able to read the defenses, go through those progressions. I know he threw his first interception in I don't know how many practices. So he's going to make smart decisions. And hey, listen, the Dolphins are kind of like the Eagles version of the AFC, where they kind of loaded up in the offseason. They bring in Tyreek Hill. They bring in a bunch of running backs. They got this whiz kid head coach, and a lot of people think they could be competing for a wild card spot with the New England Patriots in that AFC East right behind the Buffalo Bills. So this is a borderline playoff contender. I think, it's if you're going to get you're handed to you, no time better to do it than training camp.
And, oh, by the way, if Nick Sirianni says the team practice against the Dolphins was the best practice that Jalen Hurts had in 2 years, he may be right. That you can't tell him his opinion. His opinion is opinion, and he knows what he thinks. He knows what he saw. He has an opinion on it. If that was his opinion on Jalen Hurts, I'd love to know what his opinion on Tua Tagovailoa was, because Tua did more damage to the Eagle defense than Jalen did to the Dolphin defense. If that's the best practice Jalen has had, shoot, Tua must be on the verge of winning an MVP, because he kind of sliced and diced the Eagles in their practice the day before. But they got an hour and change in. I lost, loser, McDonald. I went under an hour. I thought in that Miami Heat, they weren't going to put anybody at risk. I texted with JM yesterday, and he's going to hop aboard with us coming up in about 15 minutes or so. I said hour 10, And then they went inside to the air-conditioned area, I guess, much like the Eagles have the bubble down in South Philadelphia. Miami's got something similar. So they got out of the heat and did another 20-minute walkthrough inside that the media wasn't allowed to observe. So they did get to work in yesterday. They'll be ready for the game Saturday against the Dolphins. And we don't expect a lot of starters on either of the two sides. You know for a fact Jalen Hurts, coming off, quote unquote, his best practice in 2 years, isn't going to play. He's going to wrap up the regular season, the preseason, with a perfect quarterback ranking coming off his 6 of 6 in the first preseason game the Eagles played. You probably get some of the rookies still playing. Davis and Dean will both play on defense. Maybe you get a little Cam Jurgens action at center again, but I'll bet you comes out early. I'm going to lose this bet again. I've lost it every week so far, Rick. I thought that the Eagles would go a little bit more protective of him since he may need to start week 1 if Kelsey isn't ready. No, they've given him as much reps as anybody on that offensive line. Maybe this is the week they actually scale back. They know better whether Jalen Hurts is, whether Jason Kelsey is going to be better to go. Who of the Eagles this week? And yeah, there's a little projection here as to who's going to play, who's not going to play. Big look, short look, minimum look, whatever it's going to be. Any specific Eagles you'll keep an eye on in the game on Saturday against the Dolphins? Because could mean starting, could mean making the roster. There a guy or two that you specifically want to zero in. Because, this, even though it's only a preseason game and we expect the best of the best, the starters not to play, some guys are probably putting in a pretty good fight on Saturday against the Dolphins. Who would that be?
Yeah, I got a couple on offense, a couple on defense. One, I think it's a big potential showcase game for Gardner Minshew because I'm still seeing around the league guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like Daniel Jones, a lot of starting quarterbacks still getting reps. Daniel Jones was out there with 3 backup offensive linemen, as was Tyrod Taylor. Baker Mayfield's going to get the start. So, hey, if there's a starting quarterback that does go down here in the final week, Gardner Minshew might be a hot name that teams tend to look at. So I could see him playing at least the first half, maybe boosting his trade value there. And how about my guy Josh Sills out of Oklahoma State? We talked about him, can play all 5 positions. However, when you kind of do the arithmetic and the mathematics, it's kind of hard to find a spot here for him on this 53-man roster. So I think he's fighting and clawing. Josh Sills is a guy, like, once you get him into camp, he's hard to cut. He just goes about his business, line him out outside, inside. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. He's a personal favorite of mine. I saw the injury report. I'm a little bit worried now about Teron Jackson on the defensive line because he had a laundry list of injuries coming out of school. He's now hurt again. And, the safety spot really with Reed Blankenship coming on strong. I think he's all but now assured himself, at least at the very minimum, a practice squad spot. But I think Jaquiski Tart, it's kind of make it or break it time because there's some free agents out there now. Elijah Riley, I think a former Eagle out there. Are they going to look to upgrade the safety position? Are they going to roll with what they got? I think it's a make it or break it game for Jaquiski Tart.
That's a good one on Tart. I got to remember to ask John about that, whether there was any indication that Tart was or wasn't going to play. Was he going to play significantly? Played a lot, and he made some plays in their last preseason game, which he needed to do because he had missed some practice time because of personal issues. Your buddy Sills this weekend, he's not playing for the Eagles. He has 0 chance to make the Philadelphia Eagles. But what he does, if he plays well, maybe somebody else's eyes get opened up. He's playing to get a spot with another team in the National Football League. He goes out, he can have one of the best preseason games in the history of the NFL. I don't think he's got a prayer of making the Eagles because the Eagles have as good offensive line depth, maybe better than anyone in the National Football League. But there are a whole bunch of teams that could use offensive line upgrades. And if he can show something on tape this week, then I think he's got a chance when his name, not if, when his name is on that cut list on next Tuesday. Maybe there's a team out there that's willing to snap him up. So you're right to be keeping an eye on him because he's playing for his NFL life. Maybe not his Philadelphia life, but his NFL life, he might be able to upgrade there. Your Tart point is a good one. How do they handle Tart? He's a veteran. He's been there, done that. He's played more in the National Football League than probably about 75% of the Eagles roster, but he's still just an Eagle for a couple of months now. Did play well enough in game number 2. I don't know what you read into the amount of snaps that he gets. If he doesn't get a whole bunch of snaps, is it going to be the debate will rage between Saturday and Tuesday? Because he's already made the team, so they didn't need to get a look, or they've already made up their mind that they're going to go in another direction and the Tart's just not a fit. I don't even know how to evaluate the amount that Tart plays. The way that it plays always helps. If you play well, and he played pretty well in the second preseason game against the Browns, it can't hurt you. But is Jaquiski Tart playing to make the Eagles and fortify his role, or is he too showcasing for another NFL team?
Well, I think it was a low risk contract, about a $1 million deal. So he is on notice, I think. And if it's me, I'm putting him out there with the starting unit because, you're looking for him to be your third safety. And if there's an injury, you're going to have to step him and slot him in as a starter. So let's run him out there, see how he does. I won't necessarily put too much emphasis on the snap count as much as I will with what he does with those snaps. If he comes in, plays the first 3 or 4 series, and you see him, doing what Jaquiski Tart does and stuffing the run and playing in the box and making plays, well then, hey, I think he might solidify a roster spot. But again, I mean, there's already some names out there. Troy Apke from the Washington squad was also released. He's a special teamer with a ton of experience. I think the Eagles are on the fence, and how Jaquiski Tart plays against the Dolphins here could ultimately determine whether or not he moves forward with this ball club. And if he doesn't, well, hey, there's always a need for a veteran guy there out on the free agent waiver wire. But, right now, I think I'll put it at 50-50.
All right, let me run this one by you, and I will surely do this with Johnny Mack when he joins us about 5 minutes from now. Yesterday when we were here on the show, I think it was announced while we were on, might have been just before, the Dallas Cowboys lose their left tackle. Tyron Smith, major leg issues, going to be missing months, as in plural, as in sounds like minimum of a half a season for me. He's definitely going to be put on the PUP list. And the Cowboys backup there is probably Tyler Smith, the guy they took in the first round, which is that's right. I'm going to ask you, Mr. NFL Draft Bible. Thought he was a little bit of a reach in the first round for the Cowboys last year. They were going to move him from tackle to guard. They projected him as a guard and were drafting him as a guard. Now they may very well move him back out to tackle, which isn't the best way to do things. Here, learn a new position. Do nothing else but concentrate on becoming a new player. All right, forget everything we just taught you. Now we're going to move you back out to guard. So maybe they'd prefer to keep him in at guard. Here's the question. If the Cowboys offered a second-round pick for Mr. Dillard of the Eagles, and we got no idea. Howie Roseman knows. We don't know. We all just sit here and speculate that the best they could get would be a third-round pick. Could they get a fourth that elevates to a third? Could they get a second from Dallas that could elevate to a first if he plays 90% of their snaps? And, oh, by the way, Smith is supposed to be back at some point, so Dillard could become a backup for them. But you're helping your in-divisional rival. For me, your only in-divisional rival when it comes to a title grab this year. Sorry, Giants fans. Sorry, Commodore fans. I don't think you're in the mix. It's Dallas against Philadelphia for the NFC East this year. That could be the difference between that game, first half game between the Eagles and the Cowboys when Dillard's still playing for them. Will Howie Roseman even consider? Could he be blown away by an offer from the Cowboys to trade Dillard to Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first round pick gets your attention. Anything less than that, you're unsatisfied, and you're helping out a divisional opponent in a season where, I mean, are you anything less than all in on this season? I mean, I've said it before on this show. this is the best supporting cast that they will ever have around Jalen Hurts. You've got to capitalize on this opportunity. And if you don't, getting a first round pick, now that might hurt Dallas in the future and help your organization. But a second round pick, for a guy that's going to go and start at tackle for my divisional opponent, I don't think I'm pulling the trigger on that one.
It's got to be a one. Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Jones. You can go back to overstating what kind of a team you have this year.
I think so. And, you remember when Dallas was actually, making a run and contending and Ezekiel Elliott was having career years, it was because they had a strong offensive line. And that really took a lot of pressure out of Dak Prescott. I thought Dak Prescott was asked to do a little bit too much last year, and you don't really want to make their life easier. So no, I'm not doing Dallas any favors. If they want to forfeit a one, hey, I'll listen to that. But anything else would just be uncivilized.
It is a fun conversation to have because it's Dallas. If it's anybody else, it's a different shoot. If it's the Giants and the Commanders, I think it's a different conversation.
Absolutely.
But because it's the Cowboys, the phrase overpay must come into it. Then we'll see if the Cowboys.
And Jerry's done that in the past. If you remember when they were desperate for a wide receiver, he gave up 2 first-round picks for Amari Cooper.
And then turned around and traded Amari Cooper for what? A 4th and a 6th or something as little pittance as that was this past season. I don't know. They overpaid for Cooper coming in, and they didn't get near enough for Cooper going out. All right, he's Ric Serritella. He's in with me today on Birds 365. We got our buddy John McMullen coming to us live. Oh, I can see him. He's in the green room. He's sweating already. It's hot down there in Miami again. Johnny Mac's going to join us next, getting ready for the Eagles and the Dolphins preseason game after practices were minimalized. That's my word. We'll see if McMullen agrees. He's next here on Birds 365.